Hello, I'm Paul from West Country Wanderings. Today you join me at Perranporth. Welcome to Cornwall. It's the sundial above Perranporth Beach, which was a Millennium project and installed around the end of 1999. Join me on a beautifully dry but very windy day, so I do apologise for the jitters on the microphone. It is actually too unstable and breezy to use my tripod today. It's likely to fall over. Just point out some things to you. Over on the headland over there, if you can just make that out over there, that is the site of the former Army Penhale Barracks. Where they used to use it as a shooting range, and I believe that closed about 10 or 15 years ago now. This part of the beach here just in front of me, where you can see the flag of St Piran, the Cornish flag, flying atop of it, that's actually got a tidal pool suitable for bathing, particularly useful for youngsters bathing in that there. And further on there we've got the sand dunes, which has got the oratory, St Piran's oratory, which I'll show at a later vlog. We'll do a walk over in that area. Just below that there you should be able to make out the Perranporth Surf Life Saving Club. And around to the right is the very famous The Watering Hole, believed to be the only pub on the beach, directly on the beach, in the British Isles. So yes, this is the Droskin sundial. And it was done as a Millennium project, and it's sited on the former Droskin tin mine. Although today Perranporth is more famous for surfing and holidays and ice cream and all that side of thing, that previously wasn't the case. Back at the end of the 19th century, it was one of the many sites throughout Cornwall that was the centre of the tin mining world mining centre for producing tin. And also it produced small quantities of copper and lead. Now if you look at the shadow on the sundial, you'll notice that it's coming up to 2 o'clock, and the time currently here is 3:15, so you're probably thinking the sundial is wrong. Well, in fact it isn't. It's because we're currently in BST. The sundial is set to GMT, so that explains the hour difference. But what about the 20-minute difference? That's because the sundial is set to Cornish time rather than GMT London time. And in the days before the railways, the time down here in Cornwall was indeed 20 minutes earlier than London time. Today we're rejoining our favourite that you've seen many times before, the South West Coast Path. We're heading around towards Cligga Head and towards the former Royal Air Force Station here at Perranporth. Now, a few years ago I used to live in Perranporth, about it was 12 years ago now. I just lived near the boating lake, and I'm now living back in this area again, not in Perranporth itself but a few miles the other side of it. So I'm in central Cornwall, which gives me the chance to do lots of vlogs covering all parts of Cornwall over the future coming months. We've got a famous beach here. We have the RNLI, which cover the beach. It can be dangerous. There are riptides and currents. They actually run an exchange program for the RNLI lifeboats here. You'll often hear Aussie accents amongst the lifeguards, and they swap over with their United Kingdom counterparts and they do an exchange program. But I don't think that's happened recently because of you know what, and restrictions with air flights. But in previous years that has been the case, where there's been plenty of Australians down here on the beach, and it does look like quite an Australian scene rather than a UK scene here. It's a stunning beach. It's approximately 3.5 miles long, has quite a tidal range, and as I say, it is a spot much liked by surfers. One of the tiniest seats I've ever seen on the southwest coastal path. We're at a place now called Cathedral Caverns. You're probably thinking, why is it called Cathedral Caverns? That's because where I'm standing at the moment is on top of a very intricate network of caverns which have been dug out of the rock for mining purposes. That's Cligga Head in the distance, and you can see self-evidently that a lot of mining has taken place on the hilltop there. Now, when I said I was standing on top of Cathedral Caverns, you can actually see one of the caverns coming into view there in the centre of the screen. The footpath goes across that, but it clearly states that you shouldn't wander off the footpaths, and the footpath leading down to the entrance of that cavern is not an official one, and quite frankly it's not recommended that people go on them, because there are lots of more mine shafts that are unmarked in this area, and there have been numerous accidents over the years. So this is Cligga Head. Very, very windy, desolate site above the town of Perranporth, and it's covered in mine shafts and spoils of mine waste. In actual fact, it's a triple SI, which is protected because it is important heathland. Up until a few years ago, a lot of these mine shafts were just fenced off and not actually capped with what are known as fluid caps. That's the metal pyramidal domes that you see there. It's almost like a moonscape here. Very, very different to the sand dunes on the other side of Perranporth Beach. Yes, this is a very different landscape than the tourists come down to see. It's very rugged, very harsh, very unforgiving climate. More akin to the Cornwall of Poldark and Winston Graham than one of pasties, cream teas and surfboards. So on the map, Cligga Head is just here. The town of Perranporth, where we started our walk, was right in the centre of Perranporth. We walked up towards the sundial overlooking the sand dunes. The spread of the beach goes off up this way. And just below where we are at the moment is Perranporth Airfield. It was the former RAF Perranporth, and it's now used for light aircraft and gliders. Cligga Head, as well as being a tin mine during the 18th and 19th centuries, was also a considerable wolfram mine, which is tungsten. In fact, activities here continued right through until the 1960s. During the turn of the previous century, it was also the site of the Nobel Explosive Works. And as you can see, there are a number of quarries, like this one here, on the site here at Cligga above Perranporth Beach. Sadly, some of the original purposes of the adits, like the one here, have been lost in time. There is a wonderful book which was published in 1978. I think the gentleman's name was Ken Earl. I'll put a link towards the end of the video, which documents this entire site in great details. If you're interested in more on the history of the Nobel Explosive Works here, I would refer to his book. Now inside this former adit, and judging by the length of it and the gradients, it does look like a former arsenic flue. Now, arsenic is a byproduct of the mining industry here in Cornwall. And you think, why did they need arsenic? Because obviously that's a poison. Well, it does have a number of useful uses. I know some of the arsenic was exported to North America, and it was used on the cotton crops to protect them from locusts infestations. What lies behind me is a concave buddle. Concave because it's countersunk into the ground. There are also convex buddles. And you're probably thinking, what was this used for? Well, it was for sorting the loose aggregate from the minerals that were required. There was a central brush which went around the outside, and this would separate the loose deposits from the minerals from the tin. It could also have been things like silver and copper and wolfram. In these parts, they were separated out from the unwanted ore, and buddles was one of the methods used to do that. Though the peak trade for the mines in this area was the mid-19th century, the 1800s, up until the end of the 19th century, this site was also used for explosives. In 1889, the British and Colonial Explosives Company set up works here, and they produced nitroglycerine. In the mid-1890s, the entire site was bought by the Nobel family, who were obviously behind the Nobel Peace Prize, ironically, but they developed the site. And during the First World War, they produced explosives which was used, and the entire site was done by the women that lived locally. And behind me you can see two more buddles, both a lot smaller than the first one we looked at, and again both of these are of the concave variety. And you can see the centre point on this one, the one nearest the camera, which was used for brushing the aggregate away from the rock to separate, to get the minerals that they had mined here. Now the site behind me is RAF Perranporth. This was extensively used in the Second World War, and it's still used today by light aircraft, microlights, and just as I'm talking to the camera at the moment, there are 4 people trying to land, well, hopefully land successfully in parachutes onto the airfield, which is just over there. You might be able to make out the 2 orange windsocks. Now, I'll do some bit of film over at RAF Perranporth. Unfortunately, they do have security there, but they do have a cafe, so visitors are welcome. They probably just get a little bit funny with filming, so I'll probably have to do it a little bit clandestine. Hopefully I'll try and get some shots of a couple of aircraft taking off and landing. It does get quite busy. Obviously a nice day today. There's not crosswind like it was when I was filming yesterday. So there'll probably be lots of aircraft and lots of comings and goings. So it's a good site. If you get a chance, if you come to Perranporth, it's worth going up to the airfield and have a look at the comings and goings there. And as I say, during the Second World War, it was a very important site for the Spitfires and Hurricanes, and it worked in conjunction with RAF Perranporth, which is where I used to work, not in the Second World War, I'm not quite that old, which is about another 6 miles the other side of St Agnes. And also that was used extensively in the Second World War, and a lot of the Polish Royal Air Force were based at RAF Perranporth. Now here we're looking at an adit which goes straight into the cliff above the sea. Long abandoned. I don't think that's from the 1960s, perhaps from the 19th century. There are a number of adits on the cliff face here. This is one closest to the camera I can film for you. Extensive mining remains here. Just above on the horizon where the camera's looking at the moment is the remains of the stamps, and these stamps would have been used to break up the large blocks of rock which would have been cut out from the mine, to break them up into smaller pieces which would have been used in the buddles. Here I'm not too sure what this is. If I can dig into to see what this particular flat platform was used for, I will put a subtitle below. Now this site here was one of the locations used for the explosives. Possibly the building here was used for storing the raw materials to make the explosives, and on both sides here, the left side and the right side, they have used rock which has been built up, so if anything went wrong and there was an explosion, the rest of the side would have been protected from the buffer of the effective walls, the natural walls that have been built up each side from the rock, which would have been come out as a byproduct from the mine, which was the earlier part of the development of this site here at Cligga Head. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tour of Perranporth, and particularly Cligga Head, and the little tour I showed you of RAF Perranporth and its active airfield. If you liked the video, please consider a like, subscribe, share or comment. And if you hit the bell, next time YouTube will alert you to when the next adventure in Cornwall unfolds. Until next time, take care of yourselves. All the best. Cheers now. Bye bye.